Hello everyone, my name is Mike and welcome back to Learn English. Today, we're going to tackle something that almost every English learner experiences at some point in their journey. We're going to talk about the intermediate plateau and how to break through it. But here's what makes today different. While I'm explaining these strategies, you're going to shadow every single word I say. You're going to repeat everything. No pausing, no stopping. Just continuous practice from beginning to end. This means you're not just learning about how to improve. You're actually improving while you listen. Are you ready? Then let's begin right now. Repeat after me. I'm ready to break through my plateau and reach the next level. Perfect. You're already practicing. Now, let's dive into the real content. Stay with me for the entire journey. If you've been learning English for a while, you probably know this feeling. In the beginning, everything was exciting. You learned new words every day. You could feel yourself improving every single week. But then, something changed. Suddenly, progress became slower. You still practiced, but you didn't feel like you were getting better. You understood most conversations, but you couldn't express complex ideas. You knew thousands of words, but you struggled to use them naturally in real situations. This is called the intermediate plateau. It's completely normal, and almost every language learner experiences it at some point. Here's why it happens. In the beginning stages, every new word and every new grammar structure makes a huge difference. When you learn the word hello or thank you, you can immediately use it. When you learn present tense, you can suddenly talk about your daily life. But at the intermediate level, things become more subtle. You're no longer learning how to communicate basic ideas. You're learning how to communicate with nuance, with precision, with style. And that takes more time and more sophisticated practice. The good news is that this plateau isn't permanent. Thousands of learners have broken through it, and you can too. But you need to change your approach. You need to practice differently than you did as a beginner. Let me share something important with you. The intermediate plateau isn't a sign that you're not talented or that you've reached your limit. It's actually a sign that you're ready for the next stage of learning. Your brain has mastered the basics, and now it's hungry for more complex input. Think of it like this. When you first learned to ride a bicycle, every small improvement was noticeable. But once you could ride without falling, getting faster or more skilled required different kinds of practice. Language learning works the same way. Now, let me give you the first strategy for breaking through this plateau. This strategy is about input quality, not just input quantity. Many intermediate learners make this mistake. They think, I need to practice more. I need to study more hours every day. So they spend 3 hours watching English videos or reading English articles. But after months of this, they still feel stuck. Here's the problem. If you're always consuming content that's too easy for you, your brain isn't being challenged. It's like going to the gym and lifting the same weight every single day. You might maintain your current level, but you won't build new strength. On the other hand, if you're consuming content that's way too difficult, you'll spend all your energy just trying to understand basic meaning. You won't have any mental space left for actually acquiring new language patterns. The solution is something called comprehensible input plus one. This means you should be consuming content where you understand about 70 to 80%, and the remaining 20 to 30% challenges you. How do you find this sweet spot? Pay attention to how you feel while consuming English content. If you understand everything easily without any effort, it's too easy. If you're constantly stopping to look up words and you're feeling frustrated, it's too hard. The right level feels like this. You understand the general meaning. You can follow the story or the argument, but there are moments where you have to think. There are expressions that feel slightly unfamiliar. There are sentence structures that make you pause and consider. This is where growth happens. This is where your brain is actively working to make sense of slightly more complex language. And over time, what felt challenging becomes automatic. So here's your action step. Starting today, evaluate the content you're consuming. Are you challenging yourself enough? If not, level up your content. Watch videos aimed at native speakers, not just language learners. Read articles from reputable news sources. Listen to podcasts about topics that genuinely interest you, even if they're not designed for English learners. The second strategy is about output, and this is where many intermediate learners struggle the most. You might understand English quite well. You can watch movies without subtitles. You can read novels. You can follow complex discussions. But when it's your turn to speak or write, you feel stuck. The words don't come out smoothly. You make grammar mistakes that you never make when you're just listening or reading. This gap between receptive skills and productive skills is completely normal at the intermediate level. Understanding language is easier than producing it, but the only way to close this gap is through deliberate practice of output. Here's what I mean by deliberate practice. It's not just speaking or writing randomly. It's practicing with specific goals and getting feedback on your performance. Let me give you a concrete example. Many intermediate learners can understand complex grammar, like the present perfect continuous. They know it means an action that started in the past and continues to the present with emphasis on duration. But when they're speaking, they rarely use it correctly. Why? Because understanding grammar and using grammar are two different skills. Using grammar requires automaticity. It requires your brain to access that structure instantly, without conscious thought, while you're also thinking about what you want to say. So how do you build this automaticity? Through focused repetition and output practice. Here's a powerful technique. Every day, choose one grammar structure or one set of vocabulary that you want to make automatic. Then, create 5 to 10 sentences using that structure. But don't just write them down. Say them out loud, record yourself, listen back. Notice where you hesitate. Notice where you make mistakes. For example, let's say you want to master the third conditional. That's the structure for talking about hypothetical past situations. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. Create your own sentences. If I had woken up earlier this morning, I would have had time for breakfast. If I had known about the traffic, I would have left home sooner. If I had brought an umbrella, I wouldn't have gotten wet. Say these sentences multiple times. Shadow native speakers using this structure. Use it in your own conversations, even if those conversations are just with yourself. This is how you transform passive knowledge into active ability. You take grammar and vocabulary that you recognize and you practice producing it until it becomes natural. Another crucial aspect of output practice is pushing yourself to express complex ideas. Don't just talk about what you did today or what you ate for lunch. Challenge yourself to express opinions, to explain abstract concepts, to tell stories with detail and emotion. For instance, instead of saying, "I like reading," push yourself to say something like, "I've always been drawn to literature because it allows me to experience different perspectives and understand how people from various backgrounds think and feel about the world." Notice the difference. The second sentence uses more sophisticated vocabulary, more complex grammar, and expresses a deeper thought. This is the kind of output that will push you past the plateau. Now, let's talk about the third strategy, which might surprise you. It's about embracing mistakes and experimenting with language. At the intermediate level, many learners become overly cautious. They're afraid of making mistakes because they feel like they should already be good at English. They stick to safe, simple sentences that they know are correct, and they avoid trying new expressions or structures. This fear of mistakes is actually what keeps you stuck on the plateau. Because if you never take risks with language, you never expand your abilities. Think about children learning their native language. They make mistakes constantly. They create words that don't exist. They mix up grammar rules. They say things in strange ways. But nobody judges them. And they keep experimenting until they figure out how the language works. As an adult learner, you need to recapture some of that experimental spirit. You need to give yourself permission to make mistakes, especially when you're practicing. Here's a mindset shift that can help. Stop thinking of mistakes as failures. Start thinking of mistakes as data. Every mistake tells you something about where your current understanding is incomplete. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and adjust. I'll give you a personal example. I once had a student who never made mistakes in class. She only spoke when she was absolutely certain her sentence was correct. She seemed like a good student, but after 6 months, her progress was minimal. Then I gave her a challenge. I asked her to have a conversation with me, where she had to use at least 3 expressions or structures she'd never used before. She was terrified. She made mistakes. She had to pause and think. But by the end of that conversation, she had grown more than she had in the previous month. So here's what I want you to do. Set a goal to experiment with language every single day. Try using an idiom you recently learned, even if you're not completely sure about the context. Attempt to construct a sentence using a complex grammar structure, even if it feels awkward. Use new vocabulary words in your speech, even if you might be using them slightly wrong. When you do make mistakes, and you will, treat them as learning opportunities. If possible, get feedback from native speakers or teachers. But even without feedback, the act of pushing yourself to use new language is valuable. Your brain is forming new neural pathways. You're expanding your comfort zone. Another important aspect of this strategy is consuming authentic content, where native speakers make creative use of language. Watch comedians who play with words. Read poetry where language is used in unusual ways. Listen to debates where people construct sophisticated arguments on the fly. This exposure shows you that language is flexible and creative. It's not just about following rules. It's about expressing yourself in ways that are uniquely yours. Let me share the fourth and final strategy with you. This one is about consistency and patience, combined with strategic variation. Here's what I've noticed about learners who successfully break through the intermediate plateau. They don't practice randomly. They don't wait until they feel motivated. They build systems and routines that ensure they're practicing every single day. But they also vary their practice to keep it engaging and comprehensive. What does this look like in practice? It means having a daily English routine that covers multiple skills but doesn't feel overwhelming or boring. For example, you might decide that every morning, you'll spend 15 minutes reading an article from an English news website. Not just reading passively, but reading actively. You highlight expressions that seem useful. You try to summarize each paragraph in your own words after reading it. Then, during your lunch break, you might spend 10 minutes listening to a podcast episode while shadowing key sentences, just like you're doing right now with this video. In the evening, you might spend 20 minutes writing in a journal, focusing on using complex grammar structures and sophisticated vocabulary. Or you might record yourself speaking about your day, your opinions, or a topic you're interested in. The key is that you're practicing every day. You're covering different skills, and you're staying engaged because you're varying your activities. But here's the crucial part about patience. Breaking through the intermediate plateau doesn't happen overnight. You might practice for weeks without seeing obvious progress. This is normal. Your brain is doing invisible work, making connections, consolidating knowledge, building automaticity. Trust the process. Celebrate small victories. Maybe one day you'll suddenly use a phrasal verb perfectly in conversation without thinking about it. Maybe you'll understand a fast-paced movie scene that would have confused you a month ago. Maybe you'll write a paragraph and realize it flows more naturally than anything you've written before. These moments are signs that you're improving, even if the progress feels gradual. I also want to remind you of something important. You're not on this journey alone. Right now, thousands of learners around the world are watching this video, repeating these same sentences, working through their own plateaus. You're part of a global community of people who are committed to improvement. So here's my final challenge to you. Take the 4 strategies we've discussed today and commit to implementing them for the next 30 days. Find content that challenges you appropriately. Practice output deliberately. Embrace mistakes and experiment with language. Build a consistent daily routine with strategic variation. After 30 days, reflect on your progress. I believe you'll be surprised by how much you've grown. Remember, the intermediate plateau isn't a wall that stops your progress. It's a bridge that connects where you are now to where you want to be. You just need to keep walking across that bridge, one step at a time, one day at a time. You've practiced for 18 minutes today by shadowing every word of this lesson. That's excellent work. Tomorrow, come back and practice again. Keep building this habit. Keep challenging yourself. Keep growing. Thank you for practicing with me today. I'm genuinely proud of your commitment to improvement. Before you leave, write in the comments about which strategy resonates most with you. Are you going to focus on input quality, output practice, embracing mistakes, building better routines, Share your plan with the community. I'll see you in the next video. Keep practicing, keep experimenting, keep believing in your ability to improve. You're doing incredible work. I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye, my friends.